Hey, it's Grady at Twin Creek Audio, and today I'm going to be mixing an Americana style track. It's kind of a folkier Americana style track. It has acoustic guitar, piano, a little bit of lap steel, and mandolin. It's going to be pretty cool. Going to be mixing that on the analog console back here, the Soundcraft Sapphyre, along with a lot of my outboard analog rack gear. I'm going to be using just a little bit of reverb, just a little bitty bit of reverb courtesy of my Yamaha Rev500 outboard digital reverberator, and it's going to be really cool. So come hang out with me over at the console while I mix this song. Here on the console for this, I'm going to call it a folky Americana style track. I have a lot of individual tracks. I did not subgroup very many things in the DAW. So starting out over here, it's kick, snare, hi-hat. This is rack toms, this is floor tom. Then we had an MS mic set up. Instead of overheads or a room mic, this is kind of a combination of both. This was placed about 5 feet in front of the kit. This is the mid mic, which was a cardioid pattern mic facing the kit. These are two side channels, which is one mic in figure 8 pattern facing the sides. Side mic, get it? And the left side of this has been phase flipped and they're panned hard left and right. The idea being for more mono compatibility, you want more mid mic. For more stereo spread, you want more of the sides here. Bass guitar, then a combination of acoustic guitars, a mandolin, a lap steel. Over here we have piano on these two faders. They're stereo, it's like a grand piano sound. This is the only instrument in the mix that has a touch of reverb on it. And then we have another acoustic guitar down here on this fader that's playing mostly fills. I'm going to play a little bit of this for you, and then I'll start going into the details on what I'm using on each of these sources to get this mix. I just realized I put reverb on something else too. I have it on that lap steel guitar. So there's reverb on the piano and the lap steel and nothing else. So any reverb that you're hearing, ambience on the drums, is the mid side mic setup, and only the piano and the lap steel have the Yamaha Rev500, which I'm using. What is that? I always put screenshots. It's Bright Room 1, I think. And of course, I always tweak the presets on the Yamaha, so I've changed this to about 1 second of reverb time. It's just a pretty good sound. I just use my ears and see what sounds good in the mix. I don't want something that's really obvious, but that lap steel and the piano needed a little bit of reverb, a little more ambience than they had, because we have a lot of ambience on the drums with this mid-side setup, but it's a very natural sounding ambience, so I like that. It's really, really cool. I'm going to go through a couple of the things that I'm processing here. Try not to use too much processing, and even when I do, with this style of music, I don't want it to be obvious that I'm processing things. I'm just doing it to get things to sound more cohesive and more professional. I'm not trying to give the kick drum a ton of attitude or anything, or the snare drum. In this case, I've used the Symetrix CL-100 compressor on the kick drum, and it actually seems to work really well. I also like the DBX 163X for this style of music on a kick drum, but the Symetrix CL-100 is doing a really good job after I mess with it a little bit. The snare drum, I'm using the Symetrix 501. Now that can get a little bit aggressive, but I'm not pushing that very hard. I'm only hitting between 2 and 4 dB of compression on the snare drum. I just need a little bit more of the shell out of that, so it's a little bit faster release. On the hi-hat, I'm not compressing that at all. The toms also, there is no compression. There's a touch of EQ. I'll put a screenshot of all these EQ settings right now so you can see the drums anyway, what the EQ on those are. But I'm not going to go through every single one of them because the video will get too long and boring. And then of course our mid-side mics. The bass guitar here, got the Urei LA-10 on that. Mid-side mics, there's no processing. Rest of these acoustic tracks, there's no compression on any of these. I do have a compressor on the piano. I'm using one of my ART TCS twin compressor systems on this piano. I have it stereo linked. I'm actually using the OPL V3 guitar preset, which is the stacked mode. So it's the optical and the VCA compressor, and I'm just barely compressing this piano. And on this acoustic guitar here that's playing a lot of the fills, this I'm compressing with one channel of my other ART TCS twin compressor system, doing much the same thing. I'm really just trying to rein in some of the attack of this guitar because it's jumping out of the mix here and there. So I wanted to smooth that out a little bit and add a little bit of warmth to the tone. And the ART TCS, since I'm using those stacked modes, it does a good job of adding some warmth to it because of the optical compression, but then it's also got the VCA compressor that's good at taming those spikes from this acoustic track. Good thing to do now would be to demonstrate the MS mic setup here for the drums. So let's hear the drums. This is just the MS mics, the mid and the sides. So that's what the mid-side mic setup sounds like on the drum kit. And again, that was about 5 feet away in front of the kit. Now I'm going to just solo up all the drums so we can hear all the drums together. That's a really good combination. The exact close mic setup that I did. Of course, this is my vintage 1967 Ludwig kit. So the kit itself is part of the sound. The room sound is good, and the MS mic setup combined with the close mics, it sounds really good. It's very natural sounding, but it's almost like a classic rock kind of sound. But it sounds good when combined with everything else because even though there are not a ton of instruments, it's still a fairly dense sounding mix for what it is. Now I want to solo the drums and the bass guitar so we can hear how the two of those are working together in the mix here. And of course this bass guitar is being compressed by the Urei LA-10 compressor. I'm not compressing this bass as hard as I normally do because this style of music, it just doesn't need it. I'm not trying to give the bass a lot of drive or attitude. I'm just trying to hold it in place in the mix and make sure it doesn't overtake anything and it holds down the low end really well. unsolo that. That sounds really good. It's natural sounding, but it's still really big and full, so it sounds professional, and it's a great foundation for the rest of these mostly acoustic instruments to go on top of. In fact, they are all acoustic instruments except for the lap steel. If you consider the piano, which is the Williams legato, it's Heath's Williams legato. It's not a real grand piano, but it is an organic acoustic piano sound. Let's hear what some of these other things sound like. So here's the lap steel part. I have this pan to the left and I have the mandolin pan a little bit to the right to clear out the space in the middle and to make sure that these kind of feature themselves and they can be heard. So let's hear this lap steel, and then I'll put in the mandolin over here on the right side. I like the lap steel. I'm going to pull that back a little bit in the mix. It's not really a feature thing. It's supposed to really just be kind of filling space and adding a swell kind of a texture. It's not supposed to be featured. I really like the busyness of this mandolin as a little bit more of a featured instrument. And of course the acoustic guitar down here that I haven't even gotten to yet. It's also panned slightly to the left because the sound of the mandolin is more similar to this acoustic guitar that's playing fills than it is to the lap steel. So I have it panned the same direction as the lap steel and the mandolin panned over to the other side just a little bit. Of course, you could take all of these things and put them in mono because it's Americana style music, but I like a little bit of stereo, and it's supposed to be a modern releasable thing. It doesn't need to sound like it was recorded on a one-track tape machine around a single microphone. I mean, that's cool too, but this isn't that. This is the thing that I'm doing in this video, and I don't know what that is, but it's cool. This is the main acoustic guitar that starts the song here. It's an instrumental and there's no vocals, but three instruments are really holding down a lot of the focus of the song, and that's this mandolin part, the piano, and this fill guitar. I'm going to play the piano and that acoustic fill track, just those two soloed, and then bring in the mandolin. So it's fairly simple to get a mix like this going on an analog console. A touch of EQ, I'll do an EQ screenshot again so you can see these little touches of EQ here and there on different things. And just a touch of compression here and there on particular instruments that actually need it. Everything else you can kind of let it breathe. The console is going to add some analog saturation, and it actually even compresses the sound in kind of a way. It does not allow so many peaks, and you're not going to hit red on the master of the console as quickly as you would in the DAW, or at least it seems that way to me. I seem to be able to mix at a lot hotter levels through this console than I can in the DAW. Although the DAW sounds good and clean, and I like the convenience of it. I have some things going on in here in the DAW, but it's only tape plugins. That's the only thing that I have going in here. I have Softube Tape on the kick and the snare and the toms. Everything else has the Slate Virtual Tape Machine, and I've got screenshots of the settings for both of those tape plugins. So we do have tape plugins in the box, but that's the only thing that we're doing in the box. There is no other processing, no compression or EQ of any kind going on in there. Everything's here on the console. It's the console EQs, the rack compressors, and faders and hands-on faders. It's pretty cool. So with just little touches of EQ, a little bit of compression here and there, and some well-placed reverb on just two instruments in the mix, and we have a good sounding organic mix where it's not muddy, you have enough definition in the high end, you have enough warmth in the low end, it sounds professional, it doesn't sound over-processed, it sounds organic, and it sounds good. Of course, not every part is time-aligned to a grid or anything either, so it's organic in that way as well, because this was not time-aligned and edited in the computer. These are all, for the most part, they're all complete performances through the entire song. Maybe some punch-ins and things, but there's no chopping things on the transient and lining anything up. This is all really close to the way it was originally recorded. So you get that organic sound when you're not editing everything to death and you're not EQing and compressing and throwing reverb and effects on every single thing. If you have a good sounding analog console like this Soundcraft Sapphyre or many other consoles out there, you can get that sound because the console is able to combine all of these signal sources from your DAW and your interface in the analog domain. And for some reason, to my ears, it's easier to get a good mix this way, and you get something that is more organic sounding and less brittle, and it sounds more full and more true to life, or larger than life even, which is kind of what you want on a record. Well, I really enjoy mixing here on my Soundcraft Sapphyre console. I also have enjoyed mixing on my Soundtrax Topaz. The console sounds great. It adds some analog warmth and saturation, and I like the hands-on vibe of being able to put my hand on a knob or my hands on a fader and make a change without having to go through a ton of buttons and menus. Although the digital audio workstation is very powerful and it also sounds really good, you can combine the two, and then you can use your analog outboard gear, things that there may not be plug-in versions of, and that lends some originality to your mixes in my opinion. So I'm not using the same old plug-in that everyone else is using. I'm using a lot of different analog outboard gear, compressors and things that they don't make plugins of this stuff. I've never seen a Symetrix CL-100 plugin, and that's what was on the kick drum in today's mix. So I enjoy being unique, and I like using this equipment, even though I am a fan of the digital audio workstation. I find digital audio and editing to be very, very powerful and very user-friendly for the most part. I just enjoy kind of doing things my own way. I think this song sounds really good. I'm going to go ahead and play through the entire song so you can hear everything in this mix, and I'll probably ride some things up and down and try to make it sound as good as it can for this video. I think that turned out cool. It sounded pretty good. I'm just riding some of these levels over here, particularly with these guitar fills, the piano and the mandolin, and riding this steel a little bit to add to the swells that are already there on the track that were done when it was tracked. And I think it turned out really cool. It sounds good. It sounds nice and warm, but it still sounds organic. I didn't destroy everything with EQ or throw reverb on every single thing because it's not necessary. I always find it really gratifying to mix something of an organic nature. Americana style music is perfect for this, and when I can make that sound good and make it sound organic and natural without resorting to a lot of processing and a lot of tricks, especially in the box, I'm very happy. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribing to the Twin Creek Audio YouTube channel if you have not done so already. Also check the various links in the video description for ways to help support this channel. And once again, I hope each and every one of you out there has a wonderful day, night, evening, weekend, weekday, hour, minute, second, nanosecond, whatever it is you're having. Have a good one. And thanks so much for watching.